There go two of our volunteers paddling away out there. I saw them leave there a while ago. Well, I don't know if that's Kathleen on the paddleboard there to the right. My camera doesn't go out further than that, people. Sorry. There we are. What a beautiful morning. Oh, there's that bird. So obviously I must be near her chicks somewhere. We get her here in the sunlight for a nice picture. How about that? You love to see the chicks. They're so tiny, and I don't know what you would. They waddle along after her. It's really beautiful. You don't see them too often, but when before we had the guest house and the restaurant, we were eating here a lot more, and so just as I, oops, there she went on me. I was coming down to get the sun, and now she's gone on me. Well, she's still around. I want her to line up with the sunlight there, but she probably wasn't comfortable with me taking so much time focusing on her there. That morning light's so fantastic. Also the evening light. Oh, by the way, I need to make a little announcement because a couple of you fans are pushing. Every evening there's also a sunset program from Magdala on the Experience Magdala YouTube and Facebook, and it's done simultaneously in English and Spanish, switching from one language to the other. And so I was invited this past week to do Monday evening and Wednesday evening, which are two more let's say thematic evenings, and then I think on Tuesday and Thursday it's more music, where the volunteers provide music, sing music, and then some people like the presentations on Monday and Wednesday, so they're available there in these posts today. The links are included to those videos. If you're interested, you can see them there. They're on the Experience Magdala YouTube and Experience Magdala Facebook. This one is the sunrise stroll and chat that I do is normally I do it on Facebook like right now, and this goes up onto YouTube afterwards. And then afterwards I do a shorter one on Instagram, and that's also available. And sometimes I copy the Facebook one, the one I'm doing right now, onto Experience Magdala Facebook if I remember to do it. And if the technology lets me. Yesterday I had a problem, but Anna Paula helped, I think, to put it up. I didn't check on that afterwards, but that was the idea. These kids were out all night here on the boat with their music, but thanks be to God I slept well. And there you have the Mount of Beatitudes right behind where that boat's moving. It's amazing how kids spend the whole night out there. Well, I guess it's a healthy environment on the lake rather than some enclosed dungeon space. To be out in nature at night time. This morning when I came out first, there was a little after 5. There was a little sliver of the waning moon up there, and the star right beside it, the morning star right beside the moon. It was really something I I should have gotten a picture, but I was focused on thoughts and prayer for today. So there we are. Here we are at this beautiful shoreline. Oh, by the way, the two little chats we had about Mary, it's the month of May. One was that Mary is a local girl and the importance of where we are in our local place. And that's where God does his marvelous works, and he does it with local people from the local place, you know. Sometimes we have the idea, because of our biblical culture in faraway places, and we think that, you know, these people of the Bible were Abraham, and we have stories about Paul today, you know, that these are like giant figures. They're giant because of their faith, but they're just normal people. We see that in their behavior, in their work, in their faults, in their interior structures and breakdowns. So she's a local girl doing normal work, you know, normal things. And then sometimes there are amazing things that happen, but that's really the intervention of God, giving the strength to do things, to be part of his plan. With all this fresh water, spring water coming in from our archaeological sites, we're pumping out of the ritual baths and so forth. Actually, this is not the ritual bath water. This is coming from someplace else, I think from the port area. It's one of the challenges we have here, lots of springs, and the water needs to keep moving, and there it is pouring into the lake. And yet the lake is dropping by some centimeters. And then the second little talk about Mary, in both cases we had visitors, so they were interrupted a little bit, the two little chats. Intentionally interrupted, it was okay. Then we had, the second talk was about Mary, a person through whom we can see God working. And the same thing happens for all of us, and we see it through Paul as well, through Mary Magdalene, through all the disciples. God works through concrete people in their concrete circumstances, and he does his things. And actually, all of salvation is for us and for all of God's works of salvation are for us and for our salvation. So they're deeply connected to us. They're the paradigms of our lives. So these people, as far away as they look, are actually very close to us. They're very, they help us to see the paradigms of how God works, which is marvelous. God works in marvelous ways, and it's just amazing, and it's so simple, it's so local, it's so next door, it's so just down the road, it's ours, it's in our turf, it's in our place. It's the light of God and the work of God comes into our shore. His light reflects in our lives, in the small little waves. And then there's sometimes big waves. And today we have a couple of very interesting facts. If we look at the first reading of the Acts of the Apostles, it's actually very, very cool, because historically we know exactly who is involved. And there's this proconsul Gallio, and we know that he was born in Cordoba. We know this from other documents. And his brother was the famous philosopher Seneca. And we know this from history, from secular history, from Roman history. And you see, it's part of the mystery of salvation now. It's part of the history of Paul, of his work in Europe, in Corinth. And then he carried out a vow of shaving his head. And this was in King was part of the eastern part of Corinth, just all very local. And we actually know the time because of letters that Gallio, the proconsul, wrote. We know that Paul was there at the end of his second trip, exactly during the time of Gallio, and he was exactly 1 year on duty in Corinth from, I think it was June of 51 to July of 52. See, the work of God is very local and it's very concrete, and it happens in normal human activities of every day, getting up, being tired at the end of the day, meeting people, getting involved, dirtying our hands, cleaning up messes, dealing with tensions, dealing with hostilities, dealing with the challenges of every day, each wave that comes into our shore. And this is the spiritual life, and this is where God works. It's really amazing, you know. And that this is documented in secular history is also very interesting. And because of inscriptions and because of letters, and it's become very concrete. I'm not sure if there's any other religious body of significance that is so documented like Christianity. First of all, Judaism, and the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And obviously a lot of those documents were written very, very late. But Luke is writing the Acts of the Apostles, and it's like the appendix to the Gospel of Luke. And so this is within the time. Luke was a companion of Jesus, or sorry, a companion of Paul on his journey. So Luke even talks about we, about us. That's his language in the letters, in the Acts of the Apostles. So he's in the middle of the story, and it's all very concrete. It's all very real. And because we have written witnesses contemporary to the facts, then it's very historical. It's not a mythology. It's not a legend. It's not something, just some theory. It's not a worldview that's abstracted from concrete history. It's actually very, very anchored and rooted in the dirt of the time and the place, in the clay, in the towns, in the families. And there's a couple there with Paul, traveling with him, Aquila and Priscilla. And if you just finish reading the chapter, you'll see that he left them in Ephesus afterwards. They didn't go on the whole way. And we're actually at the very end of his second trip. So we know there were 3 trips. And we know the geography of the 3 trips and the order of his travels from the account that Luke gave. And this is fascinating. I find this fascinating. I find this so real. Like, some people think that it's all concoction and all invention, but it's so nailed in, like 2 pieces of wood nailed together. It's so, or even cement bars in iron bars and cement. It's so tied together. It's so consistent. And it's also very interesting how existential it is, how real life. There's nothing fake about it. It doesn't taste fake. And here we have Paul, and he made a vow today. And we see that going back to Jacob at Bethel, making his vow. And vows are something very serious. Vows of consecration, committing to God. And he shaved his head, you know. And again, we don't have to become weird and strange, because actually by our very baptism, the nature of our baptism is the ultimate vow. It is completely belonging to Christ, dying with him, like in the letter to the Romans, and rising with him to new life and committing. And that was the whole point of the Ascension yesterday, and our little chat yesterday, and the various chats we had in the morning and then at the Mass. The Ascension is our life. We are called to eternal glory. And we've been redeemed, and we belong. And so this is our future. This is our reality. This is who we are, and that's a big deal. You know, this is our life is not exhausted in this world. Our life is called to eternal glory. We're like moving up with Christ. We're on the elevator into eternal life. The ascension is ours, in the measure then that we obviously choose to live by our baptism, our total consecration to God, belonging to Christ, and living for eternal glory. In the dirt of the locality, in the dirt of the place we're in the clay, in the garbage, in the concreteness of the life we're in the service to people in need, in the company that Priscilla and Aquila give to Paul, in the daily travel and the struggles of travel and preparing food and being tired and getting enough water in the hot weather and dealing with strangers and familiar people, friendships, and friends come in and friends go out. It's all of that just concrete life, but it's made for eternal glory. Jesus said to his disciples in the gospel today, "Amen, amen, I say to you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices." So many Christians are in that situation today. It's amazing. So much persecution. You will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will become a joy. Will become joy. When a woman is in labor, she is in anguish because her hour has arrived. You know, this experience that all of you wonderful women have, all of you wonderful mothers, and all the challenge concreteness in the locality that you were in, where you gave birth, you cannot forget that, I'm sure. You know, and all that new life that the Lord gave to the world through you. When a woman is in labor, she is in anguish because her hour has arrived. But when she has given birth to a child, she no longer remembers the pain because of her joy that a child has been born into the world. And so we Christians are in anguish, but I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy away from you. Whatever you ask the Father in my name, he will give you. These flowers are amazing. These so tiny, tiny little flowers. I want to see if I can just zoom in here for you. If you want to see my finger here related to these flowers, look at that. You see the flowers there? They're so tiny. Trying to get the sun there, I lost it. Come on, sun, where are you? Oh, it's over there. Well, people, it's lovely. Thank you for joining this morning. Thank you for sharing. Check out those little YouTube links. Just scroll down in the text together with the video here, and you can spot them there. See you later, alligators.